double music there. That was interesting.
A little extra, a little experimental.
A little extra. We need to charge extra for that. Hello! Happy Sunday, friends and lovers, and thank you for joining us. This is 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir. And I'm Robert Nasir. I'm joined by my co-host, Amy Nasir.
And you get some kind of amount of minutes with Amy Nasir as well.
You know, there just might be 5 minutes tonight. Just give me a quick show. We'll talk about that. Today is Sunday, April 11th, the 101st day of 2021, with just 264 days left to make this your best year ever, if you haven't already. Mm-hmm. Heck, with 101 days out of the way, some of the folks out there have probably already made it. Their best year yet, there are 258 days until Christmas, which makes 203 days until Halloween.
All right.
Only 203. I think it's time to start planning.
Yes, it
is. Go hit the stores.
Start.
See who's got stuff in stock.
It's past Easter. It's past the other major holidays. And
That's
the next
right.
major holiday is Halloween,
Well, you know, we broadcast live from Motown. We're just outside Detroit, Michigan. And if you know Michigan, there's a city in Michigan called Frankenmuth, named Frankenmuth. And it's the Christmas city. It's Christmas year-round. Mm-hmm. There's a Christmas store there, the largest Christmas store in the world, Bronner's.
That's right.
And they're open year-round, and it's all Christmas. Christmas decor, Christmas ornaments, Christmas, everything to do with Christmas.
All year round.
Now, here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting to see fireworks stores.
Yes.
Open year-round.
All year round.
Yeah, all year. It used to be an Independence Day thing, or as some people call it, July 4th. And you would only see fireworks the month leading up to that. Well, now it's year-round. So what's next? You just wait. You wait.
Well,
Halloween year-round. Halloween year-round is coming.
It's going to happen because Michigan is, and I don't know exactly how we rate with other states, but Michigan is probably the number one state for Halloween.
Number one, gotta be. Yeah, well, Amy's here. If Amy's here, it's the number one place for Halloween.
No, we've got a whole bunch of different Halloween, haunted houses, like really elaborate production haunted houses. I think that Toronto, however, has all year-round haunted houses. We're starting to have all year-round haunted houses here.
It's going to happen.
So it's going to happen.
I can tell you that across the street from the studio, there's a gravestone in the lawn of the building across the street, and they have not removed it since last October. So yeah, I'm telling you, year-round Halloween is coming. Just 203 days until Halloween. And on this day in history,
what is it?
April 11th, in 1888, Henry Ford marries Clara Jane Bryant. Mm-hmm. Why do we care when Henry Ford got married? Well, let me tell you. On April 11th, 1888, 24-year-old Henry Ford married Clara Jane Bryant on her 22nd birthday at her parents' home in Greenfield Township, Michigan. Clara Ford would prove to be a big supporter of her husband's business ideas 50 years later. Henry Ford, who by then had founded the Ford Motor Company, invented the top-selling Model T car, and revolutionized the auto industry with his mass production technology, was quoted in a 1938 New York Times Magazine article as saying, quote, "The greatest day in my life," this is the man who revolutionized automobiles, "The greatest day in my life is the day when I married Mrs. Ford." Now that might sound hyperbolic or something for a magazine interview, but listen. The couple, both of whom came from farm families, first met at a New Year's dance in Michigan in 1885. Biographer Ford Bryan observed, quote, "The two were impressed by each other, Clara with Henry's unique mechanical talents, and Henry with Clara's serious and appreciative disposition." Unquote. They were engaged in April of 1886, but the future bride's mother thought she was too young to wed and made them wait another 2 years. After their marriage, the Fords lived on farmland given to Henry by his father. By 1891, however, the couple moved to Detroit, the Motor City, where Henry Ford began working as an engineer for Edison Illuminating Company, Thomas Edison's electrical company.
Edison Illuminating Company.
Yes, Edison Illuminating Company. Would you like to pay your bill now? Yes, he went to work for Thomas Edison. Well, Thomas Edison's company.
Yes.
In 1896, Ford completed a four-wheel self-propelled vehicle with a gasoline engine called the quadricycle. During the early years of their marriage, the couple lived in 10 different rental homes while Henry worked to develop an automobile.
Yes.
After incorporating the Ford Motor Company in 1903, Henry launched the Model T in 1908. Now get this. The car, the Model T, which was in production until 1927, 1908 to 1927.
Yeah, 19 years. This Model T was in production. He didn't want to change it.
Held the record for the world's top-selling vehicle until it was surpassed by the Volkswagen Beetle in 1972.
That is correct.
In 1915, the Fords moved into a mansion on land they owned in Dearborn, Michigan. Have we been there?
Yes.
Many times. Fair Lane Mansion on Fair Lane in Dearborn, Michigan.
Or you can look it up as the Henry Ford Estate.
Henry Ford Estate, right behind the University of Michigan, Dearborn.
That's right.
Right on the campus there, my alma mater.
Edison Illuminating Company, alma mater.
I don't know, can I call it my alma mater if I never finished my degree? My daughter did. She went there and did finish her degree.
You gave them enough money.
I certainly gave them enough money. Just real quick, Henry Ford died at the age of 83 on April 7th, 1947. Clara Ford died 3 years later on September 20th, 1950, age of 84. Here's the thing. They were married 59 years.
That is right. And you know what he called her? He called her his great believer.
His great believer.
Because, she wasn't one of them nagging wives who would say, why do you have to be in your workshop, tinkering with your automobile and your engine and all of this stuff and trying to figure out the transmission and all of that and for the quadricycle and no, she believed in him. She kept things going for him, and he was extraordinarily appreciative.
That's why the biographer points out the first thing that impressed them about one another: Henry's unique mechanical talents and Clara's serious and appreciative disposition. We get in a lot of discussions about in 2021, romance has changed. People talk about hookups and swipe left, swipe right, this kind of online dating scene, and things just aren't how they used to be. Well, I'm not that old, but I'm old enough to remember the 1970s, and hookups were called one-night stands, and guys were just as lousy with women, and some women were just as lousy to their guys. Things haven't changed that much. And there are still love stories out there of people who marry young and never fall out of love.
Yes. Well, I would say I would much rather live in today's times or even the 1970s because, well, I know actually today's times you have the option to marry whoever you want to marry. There is no, the culture is so much better. You can marry somebody outside who looks totally different outside your race or however, and you're not going to get beaten up by anybody. You can marry outside of your religion. You can do all sorts of wonderful things.
You can marry somebody who's not even outside of your gender.
That's correct.
Something that you couldn't do 20 years ago.
Yay! Hooray for gay marriage. So that's great.
So yes, married 59 years, Henry and Clara Ford.
Yeah, they so just a little, can I insert a factoid here? So Robert and I, a little over 20 years ago now, were married at the Martha Mary Chapel. The Martha Mary Chapel was dedicated to Clara's mother, Martha, and Henry's mother, Mary. And within the structure of the brick building are the bricks that were actually used in, I believe, Clara Bryant's, her parents' home. So I believe that home was demolished at some point, and they took bricks, and I believe some of the door structure, or the doors, possibly, correct me if I'm wrong, and they actually applied it to that chapel.
Yes, so we were married in a chapel that includes building materials from Clara Ford's childhood home.
Yes.
In a building that was built by Henry Ford.
Right. And it's still there.
In a historical museum on a property in which Amy works for a living.
What? When you put it that way, that's pretty amazing.
That's pretty amazing.
So it's still there. And as a matter of fact, Greenfield Village is going to be reopening. It closes down in December and then it reopens sometime mid-April. So for members of the Henry Ford, including us,
You know who you are.
you know who you are. We have the members only exclusive day for you to go on Friday the 16th. This Friday, as a matter of fact, when it opens. So it's going to be quite a wonderful thing.
It is. It is. Today is also National 8-Track Tape Day.
You can't rewind that.
It's just funny to me, or fun to me, because I still remember 8-track tapes. The young folks are like,
I
don't know.
remember.
I have no idea what that is. I've heard it's a thing. Who knows? What does that mean?
So barely
Does
remember.
it mean like it had 8 songs or what? Yeah, I guess the only interesting thing about 8-track tapes, other than the mechanics, if you're into that kind of thing, is that they were actually developed by William Lear. William Powell Lear is the same guy who developed the Learjet,
Oh, really? I
and
did
he
not
also
know this.
developed the 8-track tape. There used to be 4-track tapes too. They used to cartridges. In fact, we used 4-track tapes back at the radio station. This was a high school radio station. I wasn't that cool, but we used 4-track tapes. We didn't even call them 4-tracks. We called them carts,
Oh,
shorter cartridges, and you would put
Right.
your short promos on them, commercials and things like that. So you would grab a cart. Yeah. William Powell Lear invented the 8-track tape. So if anybody's still got any 8-track tapes, and I wonder if anybody's still got a player that works. I wonder if I still have a player that works somewhere in my storage.
I bet you do.
I've got an 8-track tape player, but I haven't fired it up in so long. I don't know if it still works.
I bet you could fix it.
Well, if I could find the bands, it's interesting. The old turntables and old tape players, all that old electronics, a lot of them have a motor in it that makes everything run, and the motor is connected to the other pulleys by a rubber pulley,
Yeah.
and that rubber dries out or wears out. So if you've got old electronics,
Oh, okay.
I probably could fix them. In any event, the last of the national holidays today. Yes.
Yeah, real quick is so one other thing about Greenfield Village, we're going to be holding the Motor Muster in Greenfield Village car show and extravaganza, because it's much more than a car show in Father's Day weekend
Good.
this year in
Yeah.
June.
Anybody who's followed Greenfield Village, anybody who's local or has traveled to Michigan, we've had
Yes.
people come to our GlowCon and go to Greenfield Village with us just as part of our conference. You might be aware that a lot of the activities were closed down last year. A lot of the fancy weekends, the big weekends, Civil War Remembrance, and all these where 1,000 extra people are there doing
to do
things.
that this year, but Motor Muster is going to be there.
A lot of that was canceled, but a few
Yeah.
of the things that were canceled last year will be happening this year. So
It's exciting.
it's going to be good.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, so I thought to myself, Robert, maybe you could try to fix the 8-track tape player,
Ooh.
kind of apply it to some sort of power source and a speaker, and we could actually take it to Motor Muster and show it off.
Well, given that Motor Muster includes a lot of historical vehicles,
Yes.
I'm going to guess there are going to be people there with 8-track decks that actually work. Although the fun might be to bring a couple of my old 8-track cartridges, and I probably only got a couple, and see if the folks would play them.
Yes, that would be a lot of fun.
A lot of tapes have gotten so old that people will bake them before they play them.
Bake them?
Yeah, if you put them in an oven at, I forget what it is, 300 degrees for an hour, it makes the tape, and you would think it would dry it out, but it makes the tape less brittle, less prone to breaking
Really?
and cracking when you go then to use it. It's what they have to do when they take old master tapes from old record albums,
Yeah.
and you hear it, remastered version, and that's what they do.
Oh my
They
gosh.
take the old, and these are usually 2-inch wide tapes, and they bake them before they use them.
Now, we actually have a comment here from Jim. He says, do you remember the Ella cassette? No, sorry, L cassette, if that's how it's spelled. They didn't last long. Glad I didn't buy an L cassette player.
Of all the different types of multi-track tapes I've heard of, I have not heard of an L cassette.
Wow.
I certainly have a lot of the original, cassette tapes, what was technically originally called the compact cassette.
Yep.
And those really weren't going to make it because they had a thinner track, a thinner band for information than 8-track tapes or reel-to-reels. But they turned out to be so convenient, they essentially took over tape and even lasted into the CD age.
Okay, here it is. That's actually ELCASET.
L cassette with a single T is a short-lived audio format.
Let's see. Jointly developed by Panasonic.
1976.
1976.
That had to have been a competitor for compact cassette.
Huh.
Widely felt that compact cassette was never likely. Yeah, apparently this was supposed to be better. Well, there you go. It was like the Betamax of its time.
Yes.
VHS wasn't as good, but it was easier to use, easier to get, less expensive. And so VHS won, just like compact cassette won. Interesting. The last of the national holidays today is National Pet Day.
Aw.
And, I didn't have a graphic for that. I had a graphic for the Ford. So I'm going to put that up. Folks who are watching on video, since we did talk about Henry and Clara Ford, there they are looking super cute, super charming. Mm-hmm. And most of the pictures you see of them aren't wedding pictures. They're anniversary pictures. They look much older. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's super cute to see them young.
Wow.
The 5 most popular pets in America on National Pet Day. Can you guess what they are? Maybe we should have folks to guess in the chat. I'll give them 30 seconds before I read them off.
I'm going to guess bunnies, 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 and bunnies and bunnies. That's probably not correct.
No. How very strange.
How strange that is that that's not the case.
Yes. I don't know. I'm thinking the first 2 are going to be easy. The 5 most popular pets, and actually no, there's 6 most, even though I'm looking at a chart that only includes 5. I did look it up. Mm-hmm. So the most popular pet, just in case anybody's still out there guessing, we all know what the first one's going to be. It's a dog.
Uh-huh.
Dogs are the most popular pet. In fact, last night Amy rented a dog, or rather we went to visit friends who have a dog, and the dog laid in Amy's lap for hours.
Well, this is my canine symbiont Coco, who has a certain kind of psychic meld with me, and she loves me, and I love her.
She will lay on her back, let her belly be rubbed indefinitely. I don't know that she's ever actually insisted that Amy stop.
Yeah, I don't think it's ever happened.
You usually run out of rub before she runs out of belly.
I think to myself, it's been an hour. Is this good enough? Is this good enough
Is it
for
good
Coco?
enough, or must I go on? Second most popular pet in America is the shot. The cat.
The chat.
The allergy producer, at least for me.
The chat noir.
Chat noir. Yes, the black cat. No, the cat.
Just the cat.
Third most popular pet in America is... See, we have turtles here. That's good.
Can I talk about cats real quick?
Oh, okay. We're going to stick with the number 2 here.
I like cats. I grew up with cats. I love cats. I had a cat named Miss Honey Kitty Congeniality. And I made necklaces for her of my own design from like old, thrift store costume jewelry. I would just kind of piece it back together, some pearls and maybe some rubies, a ruby pendant or something like that. And she just loved it. And she was really the best cat, and I loved her so very much. Well, this is a long, long time ago. And before I realized how allergic I was to cats, and of course Robert's very allergic as well. Very allergic. So...
Well, your cat stories are sweeter than mine. Because we had cats, but I don't remember them when I was young.
Yes.
And then we stopped having cats, and we had dogs.
Right.
And by the time I was 18, 19 years old, it's interesting. I had 18, 19, reminds me of a girlfriend I used to have. It only lasted for a few weeks. Because every time I'd go over to her house, it seemed like I always had a head cold. And that's unfortunate, because when you're sniffling, sneezing,
so
it's
romantic.
not attractive. Yeah, it's not romantic. It's not sexy at all. If anybody has that as a fetish, that would have been handy at the time. And unfortunately, the relationship just didn't last.
Right.
And I only figured out 3-4 weeks in, after things had kind of wound down, I'm allergic to cats, and she has a cat. And my allergies to cats have only increased since then. So anyway, dog, cat. Number 3 is fish. And that was the only one that Linda Cordair of Cordair.com, Cordair Fine Art, did not guess. Number 3 is fish. I don't know. Do fish really count? You can't pet a fish.
Well, I suppose. I mean, it says 9% on it.
We used to keep fish, and I guess they were charming, and we did consider them pets.
I know people who have aquariums, and it's a lot of upkeep at first, at least.
Well, but
to get it going.
Yeah, but upkeep. I mean, think about pet upkeep. It just doesn't seem you get a lot back for it.
It's true.
It's more like interior decorating than it is a pet. I don't know. If anybody out there pets their fish, let us know. Number 4, birds. Birds.
Birds can be cute. I know.
People talk about your
um,
pet is messy, but well, I guess if you keep them in a cage.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that I wouldn't want one because I want my animals to be as wild as possible.
Yeah, well, you could get a parrot, a parakeet, but
Yeah.
then you've got that they're not as neat because they're not in a cage.
Well, and I don't want to trim their wings and all that stuff. That's kind of
that's
sad.
right. You got to clip their wings so they can't fly
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
You know, I did
Sad.
actually knew a nice lady who had like I think they were like lovebirds or something like that. I forget exactly what kind of bird they were, but they were like a domestic breed and everything, and she would just cuddle with them while watching television. And I thought that was kind of nice, but I prefer our wild birds that we overfeed in our yard.
Yeah, we have a ton of wild birds out front. I'm sure we drive our neighbors crazy.
I think we do.
I don't know why, but our neighbors, well, I know a couple of reasons why, but our neighbors don't use their garage to park their vehicles. And it seems to be a thing around here. Half of the houses, they use their garages for storage and they park out. We're in Michigan. I think I've ranted about this before. It snows in Michigan. But heck, even rain, if you've got a nice car, and I think I've got a nice car, why would you park your car out in front of your house? I did figure out, though, one thing is people have electric garage door openers, or at least some of us do, but they don't have electric fence openers. And if they have house pets, they keep their gates closed. They keep their fences closed. So that would be an inconvenience if you were going to park in the garage. Having to get out your car, open the gate of your fence, make sure your dog's not in the backyard, then pull in. Okay, kind of get it. Anyway, number 5 is hamster/gerbil/mouse. I noticed they left out guinea pig, but I would think that probably would be considered under hamster, gerbil, mouse. And we've had all of those. When I was kids, we had them all. Recently, my daughter had guinea pigs. I turned out to be allergic to them too,
Very allergic.
and we had to move them to another household. But hamster, gerbil, mouse. So those are the top 5, which was the initial chart that I've got here. And then,
look at that beautiful chart.
then
So-
we get to number 6.
Oh, before we do that, I want to say Jennifer, she says that she has birds. I didn't know that Jennifer had birds.
Yeah, you did.
Oh.
Maybe
Thank
you don't
you.
remember.
Thank you for helping my,
But
directly put
you've
that memory in
said-
my head.
You've said things about their birds. You've complimented their birds.
Oh my gosh. Well, all right. So anyway,
Anyway.
she said that they used to fly around until they got old, and that they are now 20 years old,
Aw.
which is amazing. Like, it's amazing. Well, that's cool. I'm sure I will. It's yes, Jennifer said I saw them. Apparently, I'm having some sort of strange lapse in memory.
I could remind you, but I don't want to get into privacy issues and stuff that, in any event.
Just tell me to close my eyes and imagine, if you will, Jennifer has birds, and this is what they look like. This is their color, and
Try to imagine a bird cage between the kitchen and the screen door to the backyard.
Okay, it's probably coming back to me a little bit, but Jennifer,
Okay.
we're just gonna have to come back over and visit you and give you a hug
And
after the time
visit
that
the
we're
20-year-old birds and say, "Don't worry, we remember you." They could be listening right now and thinking, "Gee, real nice there."
I'm sorry.
I don't know if birds get jealous or not. I mean, they're birds; they can fly. Well, these ones can't fly; they're over 20. Anyway, the number 6 pet. How is it the number 6 pet?
Yeah.
Linda did guess it, but yeah, bunnies, which is our pet of choice.
Yes.
Bunnies are the best. You know the thing about bunnies. If you've ever seen a picture of a bunny, you know what they look like? They look like bunnies.
They look like bunnies.
A bunny. I mean, it's got like the ears of a bunny, and the nose
they have
and
this furriness
It's
about
crazy.
them.
And they act like rabbits. They act like bunnies. They're
are,
amazing. They're like little gods.
I don't know if I can really describe bunnies in 25 words or less here.
So if you're thinking about what pet should I get next, you really need to think about rabbits.
Yes.
And they can be housebroken. You
can
can
I-
litter train them.
I know, okay, good. It's only 25 after. I have a few minutes to describe bunnies. So bunnies, and I can talk about bunnies for hours.
Amy, what do you
me.
think of bunnies?
They are magical creatures that they deserve our praise and our worship. Truly, they are extraordinarily self-possessed. They have extraordinary character. As long as you give them, places in your home to run, they can be litter box trained very easily. They can be bonded with other bunnies, which is extraordinarily cute, where they start kissing on each other and everything. It's just ridiculous. And They are a treasure. They are an absolute treasure. They are a hidden treasure, and most people just don't know how bunnies are. And bunnies, you can form a bond with them. And I know a lot of people, a lot of men, like manly men, who love bunnies.
Oh yeah, search for bunnies and men videos.
Oh my God!
And you'll squee.
Oh my gosh! So
older people who don't know what squee means, you'll find out when you find those videos.
The bond with the bunny is so amazing and so deep and so delightful.
Yeah, we've had bunnies at two periods of our life, and and fortunately, the second one we had for 10 years.
Yeah, almost 10 years.
And it's been a few years since her. She came. We were a little heartbroken afterwards, but also we're a little allergic to bunnies, and so we end up having to foster them to find out if our allergies will take them.
Right.
And we did try one pair of bunnies that ended up being too much for us.
a couple of years ago, it was just too much.
Anyway, if you're considering pets, consider bunnies. They are absolutely adorbs. They can even be trained. We trained our bunny to ring a bell for treats and.
Oh my gosh! So Dolly, our last bunny, she would go around and she would try to make noise with things. So those springy door stoppers.
Yeah, she would spring the spring of the door.
She understood that if she made a noise, that she would get a treat. She would get some oats. And all of a sudden, she just starts playing with the door stopper, going, boing, boing, boing.
Yep.
And the only way I would get her to stop is to give her a treat, which of course reinforced the whole thing. It was the best.
Yeah. If I remember right, didn't you try clicker training?
Well, no, because I bought it, but then I didn't really exactly know how to use it.
Yeah, I think we kind of gave up on that, and then I'm like, no, I'm going to teach the bunny to use the bell.
Yes, you did.
And I did. Yeah.
You did. It was so good.
So sweet. Anyway, bunnies, number 6.
Yes.
It is National Pet Day. Give your pet some extra squoze today.
Oh, Jennifer says that bunnies have pocket watches, which is so true. They don't quite have pocket watches, but they do have an amazing sense of time, and they know exactly when dinner is, like down to the minute. I'm telling you.
Isn't it always dinner time for a bunny?
No, I mean...
I know.
You know.
Yeah,
you remember.
Yes, our bunny would come to the threshold of the kitchen.
Yes.
Because our kitchen is tile, our living room was carpeted, and bunnies like being on carpeting because they don't slide around.
Right.
So she would come to the threshold, which coincidentally enough is right by the refrigerator. In fact, she could recognize the sound of a refrigerator door opening, something that she has in common, I think, with a lot of pets.
Yes.
In any event, we've been kind of rambling here, and I need to share the secret of tonight's episode. I kind of warned about this on Twitter and Facebook, and I forget where else I posted about the show. But folks who've been playing along at home know that last Sunday, 1 week ago today, I had a bit of an accident on my bicycle. And it was more than a bit of an accident.
Oh, was it now?
And it kind of put me out of commission. We ended up not doing the 5-minute show that night. Mm-hmm. We did reschedule it, and we had some fun Wednesday night. We did it as a simulcast with my Clubhouse show. Mm-hmm. So that was fun. But I'm still a little out of it. I'm still a little beat up. I've got the bandage off of my hand. And
it's like a real hand.
You can hardly see that it's bluish and bruised, and the middle fingers are swollen. It actually looks kind of normal. And, of course, people on Apple Podcasts and stuff are like, I have no idea what he's talking about because I'm holding it up to the camera. The point is...
No overly aggressive handshakes for Robert now.
So on Wednesday night, we talked about a topic that I already had some notes on, self-control and focus. Mm-hmm. And attitude and appreciation and gratitude, and we just had a light conversation about that. But for tonight, I'm just a little achy today and did not have much ready, other than the usual historical bits of fun trivia. And
that's okay because we're talking about bunnies.
So if it seems like we've kind of been self-indulgent tonight, we have.
I think it's okay.
We absolutely have. So how? So so I'm still a little battered and bruised. Actually, I'm very bruised, but also still a little battered.
This is his shoulder
that's the bad shoulder
that he fell on.
That's the shoulder I landed on.
And it didn't break. That's amazing.
Actually, after the accident, it looked fine. And
Yeah.
then, it wasn't until 4 days later that it starts turning black and blue and yellow, and I look like I have
beautiful.
jaundice and something.
Beautiful
It's crazy.
sunrise.
Anyway, so I want to thank everybody both for your indulgence this evening and also for Wednesday night, which was great fun.
Yes, and your understanding for missing us last Sunday. So
yeah.
thank you so much.
And it's funny. Amy was telling the story about it last night to dear friends of ours, and she mentioned that if Robert hadn't been spending so much time on Clubhouse, he might not have been looking at his phone when that tree trunk was across the road or across the sidewalk, and that's true. But in the category of what have we been listening to this week, of course, I've been on Clubhouse. We did the show on Clubhouse on Wednesday night.
Yep.
And one of the regulars on Clubhouse, one of the new and up-and-coming things that all of you need to know about if you're on that platform or if you're going to be joining that platform soon. If you see any events or rooms that say QCFA,
QCFA.
in addition to launching our Life on Earth show every Wednesday night, there's a new, I wouldn't call it a show, but a new event you're seeing regularly, which is the Quent Cordair Fine Art.
Oh, yes.
Rooms started by the art goddess,
That's right.
Linda Cordair. And keep an eye out for those because they're great fun.
Now, aren't they every day? Almost every day?
Well, no, but she's done one just about every day for the last few days. I don't think it's official yet, but she's doing them whenever she's got time. And it's interesting because the premise is to talk about art and appreciating the art and the different artists at the gallery. And she's always got a specific focus that she's doing. This morning, she was asking folks, do you prefer sculpture or painting? What style of art resonates with you? But the fun thing above and beyond the particular subject she chooses each day is that she's always got fun anecdotes.
Yes.
And stories about the gallery or about her history with the gallery or her history with Quent Cordair, the man behind Quent Cordair Fine Art. Although really, she's the woman behind Quent Cordair Fine Art.
I think they're pretty darn equal.
Including an interesting story about how they had talked about even changing the name, especially as she's really, the heart and soul behind the operation. And why they decided to keep it as is. And I think they made the right decision, but I also understand why they considered it. And that could have gone either way. So anyway, interesting stories. If you see QCFA and then, anything else QCFA on Clubhouse, definitely join those rooms.
And it means Quent Cordair Fine Art.
Yeah, Quent Cordair Fine Art. But it's always abbreviated. They only give you like 15 characters for your title.
Yep.
So that's why you've got to put something short and then what you're going to talk about. Point is, she's not in there trying to sell you art and giving you the hard sell. As she points out, the art sells itself. She doesn't have to be a salesman. All she needs to do is get people to see the art.
Yep.
And the art sells itself. So just a recommendation. Good stuff. And you've got to keep an eye out on Clubhouse for the QCFA Aesthetic Cafe.
Aesthetic Cafe.
Aesthetic Cafe, and that's
Love
that's with an A for art, AESTHETIC.
Yes,
Aesthetic Cafe.
Linda has pointed that spelling out in the Facebook comments.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you so much, Linda.
Yes, so good stuff. And again, Amy thinks maybe I'm spending too much time on Clubhouse, and she might be right. That doesn't mean that's going to change at all. So if you're on Clubhouse, keep an eye out for me. Follow me into any room I go into because I only go into interesting places. Or I'll follow you.
Yes.
So that's what's been going on this week. I had some loose notes about the things we talked about on Wednesday. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to wind this discussion down. Let me know if anybody's said anything in the comments that we haven't already addressed.
Yeah, we actually have quite a lot of comments. We have...
Yeah, but I mean, I've been reading them, but they're kind of just going along with what we've been saying. Hasn't been too much we need to reply to. But if you see anything I missed, let me know. We have things coming up that are going to be fun. And I kind of promised that I would share some of that. So let me do that if I can find where I wrote them down. Coming soon to the 5 Minutes community, including the Life on Earth community, will be more interviews.
Yes.
Now, we've talked in the past about how we're going to get the author Chris Land in to talk about his new book, Why Funny is Funny.
Chris
That
Land.
book I don't know why the Kindle version is delayed until June, but the Dead Tree version arrives at our house tomorrow.
That's right.
And we will consume that quickly. We've already seen a rough draft from a couple of years ago, which was shared with us at GlowCon 7.
Absolutely stellar.
So we're looking forward to getting the printed copy once we've consumed that. And Chris has assigned me a couple of comedy films I need to watch in preparation, because Chris knows I have a somewhat limited sense of comedy, in that there are certain things that are funny that I don't think are funny. And I almost can't figure out why anybody would think they're funny. So if anybody can explain to me why, for example, a film like Caddyshack is funny, Chris Land is going to be just the man to do that. So I'm looking forward to that interview. More interviews are coming as well. You can look forward to that.
Well, yeah.
Another thing that's coming soon are going to be more opportunities to share this show in fun ways.
Ooh, fun ways.
That don't feel like an obligation on your part. Oh, Robert and Amy want us to share their show. No, these will be fun because Amy, well, Amy has a new laptop coming in.
Oh, yes.
We just ordered last night.
Yes.
Super fancy,
Yay!
not a quad core, a 8-core i7 machine.
Better.
Yeah, 8 cores and
all
tons of RAM and solid state hard drive and discrete video. The point is, it's a laptop for running.
It tastes delicious.
Video editing.
It's just so good.
So Amy's going to be editing out short clips of the show that will be more suitable for sharing.
Yes.
Than sharing whole episodes.
I shall be the god of the entire project, and decide what goes in and stays out and everything.
Amy will be the social networking goddess. And we need that. We need that because we need to get beyond the 100 people who are wonderful, dedicated fans of the show, and we need to get into the thousands.
Can you imagine if all 100 people, all of you, were cloned, by, say, 10 times or something like that, and, we had a 1,000 followers. Cloned.
Why didn't I think of that? We don't need to... We just need to clone everybody.
No, just imagine if there were people just like you out there, and now we get to find them by sharing our show and having shorter clips, having nice bite-sized clips for people to taste, like a little buffet, of Amy and Robert.
You can send people links to short clips from just funny bits or humorous or interesting bits.
Yes.
And it would be like giving candy to strangers.
That's right.
That's great.
But there is no white, creepy van involved.
Yeah. Well, there could be if you get creative enough. Also, another thing that's coming is we're looking at doing tiers. Now, that's EIR, not EAR. Not,
IER?
The tears of my liberal opposition. Not that kind of thing.
IE? Okay, wait. John is on. Tell us how to spell tier.
What did I say? EI?
EI.
No, it's I before E except after T.
That's right.
No,
so
C.
TIER, tier. Has nothing to do with suffering.
So we're going to be developing tiers in our Patreon configuration. And we've been corrected. It's TIERS. Guess who corrected us?
The corrector.
I feel like now it's kind of like a superhero thing.
It is. Totally.
If somebody else had corrected me, it'd be like, oh, great, somebody looked it up. But when you're corrected by the corrector, you're kind of special. Like, you're an idiot, but he cared enough to say, hey, you're an idiot. So that's so cool.
Sometimes you need to hear the tough news from your friends.
That's
and you know who your friends are. And so every time he does something like this and he corrects us, we need to have...
That should be on a Hallmark card.
We need to have our guitars, like some small guitars we can get out and we can play a theme song
Hallmark.
For his superpower hero
When you
character.
care enough to say, you're wrong. I like that. That's cool. So, tears are coming. Not the tears you cry when you spell something wrong, but tears are coming to Patreon. And I'm going to need some feedback on this, and I don't expect it all right now here in the comments section, although you can put it here if you like. But I'll be sending out the information, posting it on social media. Question's going to be, do people on Patreon, would they enjoy hearing themselves shouted out? Would you like to hear a shout out at the end of this show?
Yes.
Where we would say... Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, you know,
Holly.
whoever the person is. I shouldn't be
Yes.
using names because I should only be using names. Anyway, I don't want to get into the specifics right now because there may be privacy issues or people who are just embarrassed.
It's a very common thing.
It is a common thing, but it's also something you want to let people know in advance.
Right.
Because the better shows that do this that I'm aware of give people the option of not being shouted out.
Right.
So that we can curate that list, and as we add people on, make sure that we're leaving out anybody who says, no, I don't really want you to say my name. My guess would be we don't have anybody, but I want to, there's no reason not to give them that consideration. So one thing we're looking at doing probably won't be next week. It'll probably be the week after, but we're going to set up tiers, different levels of contribution. We're going to figure out how to reward people who reward the show at high levels. And we're working on that. I'm actually working on that in conjunction with my daughter because she's much more savvy on these things than I am. My daughter, who spends a lot of time on TikTok, so she knows what the kids are into these days, and also, what kind of patronage works.
So what we need to do is we need to go on TikTok and we need to shave our eyebrows, and then draw on crazy ones, and then that'll totally go
That's
viral.
That's a great idea. So I don't think I have to shave my eyebrows. If you notice, my eyebrows grow in this light blonde color, which is strange because I'm not even a natural blonde, but my eyebrows are already so light. I could just take the makeup pencil and put on whatever I want.
Don't our fans want to see Robert with really thick eyebrows?
I think they'd rather see me shave my head first. We did do a fundraiser where I was going to shave my head, and we didn't quite reach the amount. I think we were trying to collect $1,000 for a friend of ours to take a vacation. And anyway, that could still happen too. Either way, tiers and shout-outs are coming to our Patreon and PayPal supporters.
John wants us to shave our eyebrows. Give the fans what they want, says Holly.
Give the fans what they want. Well, there you go. I guess that's just got to happen.
Oh, Linda says she just created a TikTok account today. That's awesome.
Well, then you're one step ahead of me.
Yes.
I may have, but I don't think so. I don't think I've created a TikTok account yet. So, rather than drag you through last week's notes, I think I'm just going to leave it there. I think we've had a little bit of fun.
Well,
We're running
can you tell
a little
us,
shorter than usual.
Can you tell us a little bit about what we talked about? I did go ahead and I posted in the Facebook.
We did a shout back to previous episodes in which we talked about focus.
Yes.
And that was our episode on free will or volition. And the point was that in any given moment, like right now, in fact, I'm going to do this, and y'all can follow along at home. I'm a little casual, a little relaxed. And what I'm going to do in this given moment, someday we're going to have an episode called How Long Is Now? How long is a moment? Because awareness can't be instantaneous. It can't be infinitely small. Awareness is over time. I don't know if it's a second long or 5 seconds long. Probably similar to the Crow epistemology question. But here's the thing. I'm going to sit up straight. So I got that backbone kind of slightly bent backwards. Okay. Chin up. Eyes a little wider open. Are your eyes open a little wider? Now, shoulders back. Breathe in. A little bit of a smile. Not a big one. A little bit of a smile. Just a self-assured smile. Tell me if your state of mind and your state of the way your whole body and mind feel is a little different.
Am I doing it right?
No. Hearing that tension in your voice, I can tell you're not doing it right. No. What I want is all of those things, but casual.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So let's get serious, folks. I'm sorry. I'm a little bit distracted of all the funny comments in the Facebook thread here.
I love our commenters.
Oh my God.
Or is it commenters?
Jennifer says Egyptians shaved their brows when their cats died.
As one does.
That's what you do.
And my point is that in any given moment, the decision to focus or not, what in objectivism we refer to as the locus of free will, the root of free will is the decision to focus or not. But when you choose to focus, also means that focus has content. what you become aware of when you become aware, what you are focused on when you focus. There's content there. So in any given moment, in fact, I remember it was actually John who once wrote, and I still have this quote, a little sign that I brought home from work with me. It used to be up on my work wall. And he said, in any given moment, the one thing that you are in control of is how aware you are. I have to remember the exact words that he used. He may remember and post that in the comments. And the point is that focus isn't binary.
Right.
Even though the objectivist definition may make it sound like it is, it never is. Because you could always, if you are awake, wake up again. You could elevate your consciousness in the same way that you do when you're drowsy and you wake up. You could go from that awake state to an even more aware state.
It's sort of like when one of the exercises Robert has had us do at GlowCon is stand up on our tippy toes and stretch all the way up to a certain point of a wall on the wall.
Yeah, wall's good because you can kind of measure how high up you can reach.
Yeah, and then he's like, okay, now go just a little higher, just a half inch.
Yep. It's amazing when people think they're stretching as high as they can. You say, okay, give me a quarter inch more. And you're like, well, that was as high as I could. But it always turns out they've got another quarter inch in them.
Yes.
And you've got that right now. You could be a little more awake than you are right now. And I use that regularly to make sure that I'm not getting lazy in my psychological posture, my mental state. So the point is, in any given moment, the one thing you control is your focus. But because focus has content,
yes,
because it's not just, I'm in focus, I'm not in focus. Because focus has content, it turns out that there are related things you have direct or effectively direct, if not literally direct control over. One of those is your attitude. If you can't change your attitude directly, let's say you're too angry to just decide to be less angry, or you're too sad to decide to be less sad, and that's all reasonable. Because emotions, the emotional aspect of anger, the emotional aspect of sadness, because there's also a conscious element to that, but the emotional aspect of it is automatic. We know as objectivists that emotions are automatic, subconscious appraisals. But what you can control is the thinking that's responsible for the emotions. You can control your focus, which means you control your attention.
yes,
And if you are paying attention to things which necessarily lead to different emotions, then you're changing your emotions. And it's not just think about a happy song and you'll be happier, although that's true. Or think happier thoughts and you'll be happier, although that's true. But there are actual happier facts out there. In any given moment, you could think about what's going on in sub-Saharan Africa and start crying if you know anything about what goes on in poor villages in Africa and under the kind of brutal military dictatorships that run small countries there. You could bring yourself to tears anytime you want. And I don't mean guilt. I don't mean it's your fault. I don't mean you have a responsibility. I just mean it's incredibly sad and incredibly tragic.
Right. Your value and emotion response is pretty integral to who you are.
Or you could bring yourself to anger just by thinking about, say, American politics.
Oh, stop that.
You could make yourself furious just thinking about payroll taxes. And what is done, even taking the money from you isn't the worst part. The worst part is what they then do with it.
Well, I'll tell you.
You could make yourself, but here's the thing.
Yeah.
You could make yourself ecstatic in any given moment as well. And not by evading the things that are making you sad or evading the things that are making you angry, but simply because there is a bounty of facts, of aspects of reality out there that would lead to ecstasy if you focused on them. And some of the ones people are familiar with, it's obvious. What's your favorite record album?
Right.
Put that music on.
Okay.
Who do you most love to see, talk to, look at? Who is the person most beautiful to you? All I need to do is spend time with Amy. That changes my state. But there are other ones. People underestimate how much good there is in the world. So go to the Human Progress website.
Oh, right.
Google Human Progress. The first hit will be I think it's humanprogress.org, but I think they also own .com. And you will find no end of reasons to be both joyous and optimistic. And in any given moment, you can make the choice to focus on that, not by evading things that are wrong or by evading things that are sad, but simply by, for a few minutes, changing your focus.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I mentioned in connection with focus and attention was appreciation and gratitude. Because it turns out, at least for me, that they are almost as tied to focus as attitude.
Well, I have to tell you, when I compliment somebody, or I bring out the best in somebody, or I make an observation about somebody, talking to them, and I give them a compliment that is meaningful to them. God dang it all, that just peps me up.
And
it totally peps me up.
The amazing thing is you're complimenting them. Why are you the one who's getting happy? And yet, that's exactly how that works.
Yes.
That's why you can't pet a dog and not feel some of what the dog is feeling.
True.
You know, it's a combination of empathy and sympathy and who knows what else. There's a lot going on there. And it's all good.
Well, what's really good is that John has graced us with that quote that you were just mentioning.
Yeah, this is a little different than the one I had in my office, but he writes, whether you know it or not, you are always deciding how aware to be. It's a variation on, if you choose not to decide, you've still made a choice, but that's binary. And the way John puts it makes the point, it's not just either you're aware or you're not, it's also how aware are you?
Mm-hmm.
And, I probably need to read more of Harry Binswanger's work. I need to finish reading How We Know.
Yes.
To see if he addresses that in a way that that explains it. How it's, it's not binary. It's not just I'm thinking or I'm evading. I'm thinking or I'm drifting. But how aware? How, what's the intensity? Because some objectivist speakers, and I mean prominent objectivist speakers, have said, well, once you're aware, the level of intensity is a different matter altogether.
Mm.
And that may be true, but I'm not enough of a philosopher to be able to speak eloquently on that or even intelligently on that. So I need to look more into that. But what I do know is that it is absolutely true that how aware you are is both not binary and is within your control.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, and just to follow up with the last bit, again, this question of gratitude, on which we've done a whole episode, and you can look that up at youtube.com/Robert Nasir. The question of whether you've experienced, I don't mean express gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean, I should tell people I appreciate them, although that's important. But not the expression, the actual experience is what I want people to have more of. That actual experience of realizing what you're surrounded by. Mm-hmm. Good people doing good things,
yes.
producing great stuff, giving you enormous opportunities. The hardest thing about deciding what to do for a living in the United States of America is that there are so many options.
Yes.
If we lived in the kind of world from 500 years ago where you followed your family or your father's guild or career and
right.
you didn't really have options, the kind of Bernie Sanders ideal of fewer brands of soap on the shelf. But the challenge is we are surrounded by opportunity, we are surrounded by abundance, and for all of life's tragedies, and life is full of tragedies, memento mori, never forget, someday you're going to die. And it's probably not going to happen all at once and in a nice, pleasant way. So yes, for all of life's challenges and pains and unhappiness and tragedy, we are surrounded by beauty and opportunity and abundance and way too many choices for Bernie Sanders to ever be happy. But the rest of us can be ecstatic about it.
Yes, that's right.
Since you asked for a little elaboration.
Thank you very much. I know Jim specifically requested that, so.
Well, I'm glad he asked.
But we do have the YouTube link in the Facebook and the YouTube chats. So, and Jennifer mentions, I think it's probably a lyric. Maybe. Each moment's a memory in flight. Each moment is a memory in flight.
question occasionally comes up on the social networks, the Twitter and the Facebook. What, and then there's usually a number, like what 3 topics or what 1 topic could you give a TED talk on without any preparation? And gratitude is definitely one of my top 3.
Yes.
Yeah, marriage would be one of my top 3.
Bunnies is my number 1.
Amy would talk about bunnies for 15 minutes without a script. She could just go on, do a full TED talk.
I'm there.
Done.
I'll have to put you into contact with my manager, and we'll arrange a contract.
That's
and
right.
A sum of a fee for my services, and
I don't think
I'll be
people
right there.
I don't think people get paid for TED talks. But yeah, she can come speak at your corporate event.
Yes.
And 15 minutes on, hell, she could do half an hour on rabbits, although TED talks aren't usually that long.
No, I would definitely do an hour. And then I would also integrate it into the virtues of running a business. So I would do it.
So
Bunnies,
there you go.
The virtues of business. This is great. Yes.
There it is.
Oh, hello, Marcella. Jim says, with regard to focus,
Yes.
in a way, focus is almost like a muscle. If you have the habit of not being in focus or high focus, like a muscle that has not been exercised for a long time, it will be hard to exercise and strengthen your focus, but it can be done, no matter how out of focus a person has been or for how long.
You know, that's
Yep.
interesting that Jim brought that up, because it's on my list of difficult topics that I'm working on doing a show on, but I'm not ready to do it yet.
Mm-hmm.
The category of difficult topics that I need to do a show on, but I'm not ready yet, include tradition, loyalty,
Yep.
purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and character. And what Jim's talking about points to the fact that character is a thing. And this has been talked about. Leonard Peikoff has talked about it, for example, given the example that if you have a poor character, a poor moral character,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes progressively more difficult to do the right thing. And yet, because of free will, you always have that choice. But it becomes harder and harder. And if somebody has developed a good enough character, it's virtually impossible for him to just decide on a whim to do something horrible, to murder somebody. And if somebody has developed a bad enough character, it can get to the point where it's virtually impossible for them to do a good thing, and they slowly have to work their way up to being good again. So character is a thing, but when I put it simplistically like that, it almost sounds like ballast or inertia, and I just got to trudge through until I'm good again. Mm-hmm. It's definitely more complicated than that. So yes. I'm glad Jim brought it up, because it's going to be an episode, but I'm just not quite there yet. I'm not quite ready to spend 5 minutes talking about that in a compelling way.
Now, Emily does say that she would love to listen to a talk on tradition.
Yes, I would love to do a talk on tradition. Why it's a topic that's suspect by just about every objectivist out there, and yet what we as people who don't have a great reverence for tradition can get and should get mm-hmm. out of the concept, whether that means pulling the good out and leaving the word behind or reclaiming it.
Yes.
I suspect that's one where we could reclaim the word,
mm-hmm. as
opposed to, for example, the word faith, in which, no, what we need to do with faith is just take out the idea of confidence and the idea of informed decision and what
yes.
people really mean when they use faith as a good thing. Yeah. And John did incidentally find the version of his quote that I had on my wall at work for years.
Yeah, thank you, John. When
I still used to work for a living. The one thing you choose every waking moment of your life is simply this: how aware you are.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's always a reminder to me that it's not just enough to be awake and aware and doing your job. You need to consciously decide how aware, how much focus, and how much effort to put into any given moment. And that's why I talk about that a lot.
Yes.
So, with that said, as usual, show notes will be posted in the notes for this video on YouTube and at Facebook within 10 minutes of the end of the show. Even close sooner than that because there's not a lot of notes, although I do have links to the information on Henry and Clara Ford and Fairlane and the national holidays today and a few other fun things. Those links will be posted right after the show. The post-it note for the week for me actually is an old one. You might remember this from a couple months ago. It says, "It's not too late, but someday it will be." You heard me say earlier, memento mori. Remember that someday you will die. Memento mori, the Latin expression. Likewise, it's not too late. So whatever you've wanted to do your whole life, start working on it. Go out and get it. Even if it takes years. You could be, say, 57 years old and you always wanted to have a college degree, but if you work now, it'll take you 4 years, and do you really want to be 61 by the time you do it? And the short answer is, someday you're going to be 61. Now, are you going to want to have completed that thing or not? It's not too late, but someday it will be. Reminder, the show notes will be online. Questions and comments can be posted either in the chat, as a lot of folks have already done, or in the 5 Minutes with Robert Nasir Facebook group. If you would like to support the show financially, and I will be sending out some questions to folks on whether they want to be shouted out, it is coming. You can do that at patreon.com/Robert Nasir. If you'd like to send a one-time contribution, or if you're just not a fan of Patreon, there's a few people who are still like, I don't like Patreon because they didn't support my political candidate. PayPal.me/Robert Nasir. Links to both of those are on my website, robertnasir.com.
And they are now in the chats.
And they're now in the chat. So actually, even though it's a bare bones website, you can now find the latest episode of this show, the embedded YouTube link, links to both of those ways to contribute to the show, my Facebook wall, my YouTube channel. Links to all of that stuff are at robertnasir.com. One place, one-stop shopping for all this good, creamy, velvety goodness. And as always, thank you for joining us, especially in this somewhat rough and tumble weekend. I'm, slowly getting over last weekend's accident. I'm functional. I'm doing fine. It's just there's still a lot of ouch about it. And by next Sunday, I'm sure I'll be back on the bicycle just as recklessly, but actually watching where I'm going. And it's all good. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with us. We genuinely appreciate it.
Yes, we do.
As always, we wish you success. We wish you happiness. We wish you flourishing. We wish you elevated levels of self-control that maybe this show will help you think about a little more this week and capitalize on that little extra burst of energy or mental oomph that you might need. And as always, and especially in April, we wish you love.